Okay, as I was saying, hi everybody, my name is Ben Maheston. I'm the BJ Membership and Account Manager, and I'm going to be today's host. And today is the very first session of our Entrepreneurship Month. This is a month that we've dedicated to asking the questions and learning more about, what it's like to be an entrepreneur. We all see entrepreneurs talked about in social media, the news online. But what is it really like to be an entrepreneur? How do you set up a business? How do you sell a business? And what are the do's and don'ts that entrepreneurs would advise students and graduates like yourself? Over the next 4 weeks, we have 4 sessions. Today's the first session. And each webinar, I'm joined by a leading entrepreneur in their field, where they're going to answer some of those questions. They're going to give us advice. They're going to tell us what it's like to run a company. As the first session today, I'm absolutely thrilled to be joined by the amazing Rauen-Prestes, who is the Chief Cake Officer and CEO of Fitbakes. Fitbakes is a company that creates and sells very healthy, low sugar, high protein energy bars around the world. You may have seen them on the shelves in many UK supermarkets, as well as online and through social media. Ella here today is going to talk about the do's and don'ts of entrepreneurship, or essentially the truths and myths of entrepreneurship. And then she's going to allude that there is, many ideas what people think it's like to run a company, but Ella, with the experience of running a very successful company, is going to tell us all about it. Hi, Ella.
Hi everybody. Nice to see you.
Good. Thank you again, Ella, for being here. It's a real privilege, pleasure. And before we start today's session, I just want to let everyone know that we're going to create it as interactive as possible. So we have a list of polls that we're going to be sharing, and I'll share them soon. And if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box, where I'll be able to answer them and ask Ella to answer them throughout the session. Okay, and also the last thing, we will be recording today's session, so you'll be able to watch it online or on our YouTube page at a later date. So Ella, I'd like to hand over to you now to introduce yourself briefly and tell us all about what it's like to be an entrepreneur.
Right. Okay. So pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Ben. So I'm Ella, Fitbakes founder and Chief Cake Officer. It's one of the things you see for you, the ones of you that are entrepreneurs or there will be. You will see it's very hard to give yourself a position and a name of it. So people are like, oh, what are you? Well, I think I'm everything in the company. I mean, now we have quite a few people on the team, but when you started, you're literally the CEO, the cleaner, and the coffee lady. So you do everything. So yeah, so we created this fun position names for ourselves. I'm the Chief Cake Officer. We have the Chief Sprinkle Officer. We have a Lord Commander. We have all these names, but yeah. But we do divide nowadays formally the responsibilities in the company. I'm going to start sharing my screen so you can see the introduction. There you go. So my background is actually, I have 20 years experience in tech, telecommunications more specific. I worked for a lot of the major telecom companies in the UK, Vodafone, and abroad, Telecom Italia, Embratel, MCI, quite a few, in a lot of different countries. And I am originally a computer science graduate, bachelor, then with MBA, all the whole master's, MBA, all the whole corporate do. And when I founded Fitbakes 5 years ago, I was always obviously interested in nutrition, but I thought I was missing some nutrition formal background, especially because you're able to actually formally talk about the recipes and the claims of the product. So I went back to school and I got nutrition certification. So yes, that's me. And so Fitbakes is, as Ben mentioned, is a brand of low sugar, high protein, better for you baked goods. And we have cakes, bars, tortilla wraps. We have quite a few products. And I'll talk a little bit about all of them. So just to give you an idea of the Fitbakes history, kind of like the journey, I don't really like that word, but the journey of where we've been to is we started in 2018, and from kitchen table right here, I was working full time. I would bake at night or the weekends. Did a website myself, which was terrible at the time. It was not this one that you're seeing there in the image, because that was the good one, made a few years later. But and we started, and we posted some ads on Facebook at the time, Instagram, and then we started growing from there. Then we grow a social media tribe. We went then to stocking supermarkets, so Selfridges, Co-op, Amazon, Tesco, Holland & Barrett, Waitrose, Spar, more to come in a few months. And we have been mentioning quite a few media outlets. Those was the ones that, the main ones, but we have quite a few other ones too. And we went from 0 to 7-digit revenue in these 5 years. So this is the company, kind of, so you can have an idea. And we went to a team of 1, which was me, to today, which is a team of, I think we're 12 people now, but we don't manufacture ourselves. So all the factory staff is not included in this 12. This is management. The format of this presentation is going to be a little bit like, I'm going to pose some questions, and then I would like you guys to tell me. Ben is going to put the poll there, and you guys are going to tell me if you think this is a yes or no, so truth or myth. So the first question, just to start right away, is entrepreneurs don't have a boss. So what do you think of that? Do you think this is true? Do you think yes, they don't have a boss, or do you think this is false? It's a no. So, because you hear that, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur because I want to be my own boss. So what do you think? We'll give you a minute for you guys to answer that. And I would love to have an idea of what do you think. So.
Yep, they're all coming in. It seems to be quite even at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, it's going slightly one way more than the other, but it's quite even. I'll give it another couple seconds, then we can end the poll.
Yeah.
I'm going to end the poll now, so you should be able to see the results.
Yeah, so yeah, well, half and half almost, a little bit more for the no. So a little bit more for people, yes, oh, that's not true. Okay, perfect. Right, so I think this is a myth, to be fair. I think entrepreneurs have more bosses than everybody else. I was employed for 20 years, and I had one formal boss, always, you know, different bosses, but always one formal boss. And in right now, I have more bosses than everything. Starting by our Instagram, you're exposed, you're out there. So, I mean, we have 52,000 followers. I think I have 52,000 bosses, because everything, if you step out of line in anything, there is somebody there to give them your opinion, give them their opinion, and tell them, and everybody. And it's public, and it's out there, and it's, so that's one thing. Obviously, you have the direct formal bosses, which for us is our investors, because we have investors. We have a board, including a chairman, which is literally, he bosses me around. It is his role. He was hired to, when you hire a chairman, you will hire someone that knows more than you, that has more experience than you, to watch for the company about everybody's investment, to watch the board about everybody's investment, and to watch the company and make sure you're doing the right decisions. So I don't take the investors' money, buy a Ferrari, and you know, and I think that's great. So I think, so this is the kind of so we have a boss. Obviously, it's a bit different than having a boss when you're employed that tells you what to do, because you're much more independent and you are your own boss. Other bosses that I have is my co-founder, which in my case happens to be my husband. So it's quite a conflicted relationship, but we managed to do it. Like, we have procedures for everything. We have formal meetings. We have everything. But yeah, employees, the funny thing is when you're on the top of the formal organogram, you feel more accountable than everybody else, because if you don't set the example, when you're the CEO of the company, which is everybody's looking up to you. So if you arrive late, it's not like somebody's going to tell you off, but everybody's going to say, oh, it's fine to arrive late then. So you don't want them to think that's right. So, so that's a bit of the conflict there as well. So that's why I feel like they're my bosses as well. And the clients, obviously, and the social media, like I spoke about. I have every slide I left a little bit of a quote somewhere from somebody that I find not a motivation, whatever quote, somebody that I actually think is very relevant for it. So yeah, in this case, it's from Warren Buffett. I'm sure everybody knows who he is. And it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. So you don't have a formal boss, but you have a reputation, and that's your boss, in my opinion. I mean, everybody's obviously free to disagree, and we can discuss that later, but that's my take on it. I'm going to go to the next goal, which is follow your passion and you will be successful. We hear that a lot. So what do you think? Do you think if you follow your passion, you'll be successful? Do you think this is true? Or do you think it's a myth? So truth or myth? Yes or no?
Give a couple more seconds till some answers coming in.
I'm curious about this one. I'm curious about all of them.
Yeah. Let's end it there. I'll share results for you now, Ella.
No. And yes, okay. Well, divided. Fascinating. Okay. Now, my opinion is, I think this is true, but let me explain it. Not blank true. Follow your passions, but numbers rule. Numbers always rule. The romantic, so this quote, I want to, guys, if you guys could read this quote is from John Mark. I don't know how to say his last name, but John Mark, he is the head boss of this massive venture capital company in Paris. And so they invest in startups, in big ones. We're talking high tech. And what he says is, despite the romantic vision that people may have of the instinctive entrepreneur that succeeds without a business plan, result is in the figures. So following your passion is true, but it's not enough. So just go around this famous skill here. So you have the passion, the skills, and the market. If you have something that is your passion and the market, you have a dream job. If you have a skill and the market, you have a job. But if you have a passion and the skill, but there is no market, that's a hobby. Okay, so be sure not to confuse it. Now, another thing is, people sometimes think, oh, I'm passionate about fruit juice. I'm going to make a fruit juice company. Well, first, is there a market for that? So check the numbers, check everything. And also, is that all you're passionate about? Because in my case, I'm passionate about cake, yes, but my biggest passion is about the health aspect of it, is about the nutrition aspect of it. That's what I've always been into. So that's where I think we've managed to be different from the other cakes in the market. Because if people, I've seen so many companies fail, like, oh yeah, my grandmother has a formal, fabulous recipe for this curry, and I'm going to launch this curry in the market because it's fabulous. How many fabulous curries are there in the market? Why is yours different? Why are you going to succeed ahead of the big guys, like in food, for example, which is our example, like Unilever? I'm competing against Unilever, Nestle, Mr. Kipling, I mean, Premier Foods. These guys are Ferrero. I mean, like, and they have money to spend. So this is why am I going to succeed? In my case, because I have something that they don't have. Two things. One, we are fast because we're small, so we can adapt, we can move. And we also people don't trust big companies when it comes to healthy stuff, usually for food. You are more likely to trust a small company with like something organic or plant-based or low sugar and natural than you are likely to trust Unilever. So there is a logic on that, and there are numbers behind it. So that's the main thing to think about it. Don't confuse hobby with passion, because first of all, if you make your hobby your work, you're probably going to be left with no hobby. So that's the problem to start with. And also, it doesn't mean your hobby, again, there is market for it. And the difference, the third point is the difference between the gap in the market and the market in the gap. So we've seen that a lot. We fell in this trap a couple of times as well. So there are quite a few examples of companies that have tried to do, like, for example, this curry that I just mentioned. Somebody said, oh, my grandmother has an amazing recipe for a curry. I'm going to put it out there. Oh, there's a gap of the market because nobody ever made a curry, which is, I don't know, in this case, 100% organic. It doesn't sell. I can't find it anywhere. Okay, great. So you're the only 100% organic curry in the market, and it's delicious. Sounds great. How much does it cost? 25 pounds. Do you think you can sell that? Oh, but that's the price I have to put out to be organic. Okay, well, let's try it. Tried it. Well, why do you think nobody does it? Because there is no market in the gap. So you have to research it. So it doesn't mean what I mean when I follow your passion. Like, what I mean that's true is you have to be passionate about something that you're doing. It doesn't mean you have to be passionate about the product or about it's either the way you get there or to succeed or but there has to be some passion, because entrepreneurship is very self-motivating. That's what I'm talking about. So there was a few that answered that this is true, this is not true. I don't think you're actually incorrect, because what I'm saying is that it's true, but with the numbers. So that's probably what you guys actually meant when you answered it. So yeah, we can talk about this a bit later, but in Q&A. But that's goal number 2 for you. Let's go for number 3. People can learn to be entrepreneurial. It's not a personality trait. Do you think this is true? Do you think you can learn, or do you think you're born like that? Now, what do you guys think? That people that are entrepreneurial are always entrepreneurial, and and serial entrepreneurs and this kind of thing? So let me know.
Yeah, this is a good question. It's something people always wonder, don't they? Is, was Steve Jobs born like that, or was he made to be like that?
Yeah. And I watched a panel about this the other day. It was I changed my mind a few things about this one, but yeah.
Well, it's pretty resounding one end, so I'm just going to end it and share it there.
Oh, yes, people can learn. Yay! Okay. So yeah, perfect. That is true. Exactly. I think the example for myself that I have myself is me, because to be fair, I was a very happy employee. I have a mother and father entrepreneurs, and I was terrified of being an entrepreneur. I was like, you know what? I see them suffering ups and downs, successful and not, and then whatever, we have cycles. And I wanted to be employed my whole life. I was just like, I don't want that. I need to be stable. I need stability. I need to have my salary in the end of the month. And I've done it, and I was great, and I was happy until one day I thought, basically, it was a group of factors that made me change, because I worked for Vodafone at the time. I was international director for Vodafone, and I worked from home. Before COVID, we've already been doing that for years, because basically my team was all abroad, so they're spread around the international. So I would go into the office once in a while to see my boss, but which at some point wasn't even here in the UK. But anyway, but as you guys know, in technology change in cycles as well. So every few years, if you work in tech, you have, in my case, I would have to to retrain it and change departments because it's all redesigned. So I was specialized in a technology that was dying, and as it happened a few times. So I would have to go back to the office for like a year or two and work full time at the office again, retrain to continue to move along. And I knew that was coming because it was already actually overdue. At some point, I remember telling a couple of colleagues, I was like, if I was my boss, I would have fired me already. Not only me, dissolved the whole team, because we were a lot of expensive people for something that was not generating enough profit for the company anymore. You used to be good, but then it wasn't. And then we have to, reuse these people. So, but I was already living in the country, used to work from home. And I was like, I'm just going to start this on the side to see if it works. So we started Fitbakes on the side, continue to work. And then I was like, well, it's taking off. Then the day my boss called me to say, you have to retrain, like you have to go back to the headquarters to retrain. I was like, yeah, no, I think I'm leaving. So yeah, because Fitbakes was taking off, and that was it. So I went full time in the company, but the company was already taking off. So I think it can absolutely be learned. I learned a lot about myself. I think my case, I hired my weaknesses, the things that I didn't know how to do. It's important to delegate and to hire them, because obviously you can't do everything yourself. You find a co-founder if you need it. I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs that have done that, a lot of founders that have done that. In my case, it's my husband, but he didn't come in the very beginning of the company. He actually came along 2 years in, and he does half of everything now, but it in the beginning was on me. And now the 4 point here, when I say employee first, I would say it's probably easier, even if you have an entrepreneurial natural skills, for younger people especially, if you don't have any experience in the working in bigger companies or in successful companies or something, if you're going to start your company right away, like right after studying, right after uni, your chances of succeeding are way less, I would say, because there is something called knowing how to work inside a company and seeing how procedures work and how. So a lot of, like, for example, here, I have a lot of experience in working in larger corporate environments. And my husband has been an entrepreneur his whole life. So he doesn't. A lot of the times, the company has been saved by procedures. By the way, that's like, this is how you do it. This is how you sort it out. This is how you proceed. And all I hear is like, you and your procedures are, well, I've been trained with that for 20 years. And they're there because they work. So I'm not saying you need to be 20 years and then be an entrepreneur, but 3, 4, 5 years. I think if you go to be an entrepreneur right away, I think it's probably harder. It's not said you can't be done, but I say get a job first. Anywhere. Be a trainee in something. Just see how people work, how hierarchy work, how an organogram work, what procedures are, what's this basic work system, how it works. For me, it was important. I'm sure people can do it without it, but yeah. Next one. Entrepreneurs need to be risk takers. Trust their gut. What do you think? Is this true? We hear this a lot, isn't it? Trust their guts.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely got a few answers coming in. Give a couple more seconds to get your answer if you can.
Yes. Okay. Shall we see? I think it's a myth. Again, let me explain, okay? You need to be a risk taker, but I'm not a risk taker. I'm going to tell you point blank. I'm a very conservative person when it comes to risk, and and this is actual picture of my mug that I gave. I have quite a few because people make fun of me because I've missed spreadsheet. So everything is in spreadsheets. Run your numbers and limit how much you can fail. So take risks, but calculated risks. A risks for a leap. I'm going to take a leap because I think, this romantic idea of that people are just going to leap in something amazing, and then it's just gonna, and then there is the key for success. It's not. It's numbers, it's money, it's the groundwork that has to be done every single day, not for your company, not to go down. And when you see other companies going down right now, I mean, food industry right now, the startups, food industry startups is just going mad. The amount of people that went bust this year is absolutely, in the UK, it's absolutely crazy. I want to give you an example. It's a little story tale that I have actually happened to us during COVID. So we have 3 factories that manufacture for us. They're not our factories, they're outsourced factories. And each of them manufacture a different product. The factory that manufactured our cakes is still the same one to the day. They are based in Northampton in the UK. And they manufacture for some massive brands, massive coffee shop brands. So I'm not going to say which ones, but I'm talking the likes of Starbucks, Pret a Manger, Caffè Nero. So these guys, right? So imagine that they manufacture to coffee shops, massive, and in terms of volume, and Fitbakes, babies. It's like in terms of volume, this is it, because they are ridiculously big. COVID, first thing that closed was the commerce. So coffee shops were closed. And the furlough scheme in the UK, so for people that are not in the UK, where government helped, if you close your business, you you would able to continue to pay your employees with government money. So you wouldn't, basically you're giving money to survive. But if you keep working, if you keep your doors open, you don't get that money because they keep getting the salary. So our factory, because they didn't have any more of the big clients shut down. So all the coffee shops shut down, and we are there, and we are like, just us, like, okay. And the factory calls me and says, and I never forget, in the morning, like they said, Ella, I'm afraid we don't have good news. We are going to have to shut down the company, the factory indefinitely, until we know. This is in the first moment that nobody knew what was happening in COVID. We didn't know if it was going to last a month or a year or 3 years or whatever. And I'm like, I can't. My business at the time was mainly online. I have to deliver. People are buying online. I need you guys to work. And they're like, well, we can't. We can't keep working because the cost of keeping the factory open costs us, I don't know, like £5,000 a day. And my Fitbakes production, just to keep it open for lights and employees and, and everything. And Fitbakes production is not that big. It doesn't justify. We have to shut it down and we have to furlough everybody. And they said, and I was like, no, guys, please, no, there is no way. So I said, okay, give me a minute. So I went back, did a spreadsheet and said, okay, so how much is it for the day? It's something like 5,000. And I said, okay, so that means if I pay them if I gave them enough production to justify 5,000 a day, I could have for a day. How many cakes can I make in a day? And how often do I need to manufacture? Because you have to remember that cakes have a short shelf life. So it's not like I can produce one and live for a year. It has to be every other, every 15 days or, something. So how many people can I furlough and how many do I need to keep? So I did a massive spreadsheet with a massive diagram. And I said, okay, if I sell above this number of cakes online, I can break even to keep the factory open 3 days a month and manufacture for me. And we took a risk. So we took the risk, but it wasn't on my gut. It was on, I think I don't have a gut. I think I have an Excel spreadsheet there. So because it's like, that's where it was calculated. And we say, okay, let's try it for the first month. If it doesn't work, if we don't reach the numbers to pay for that, we stop. We shut it down, because then you limit your losses, basically. Okay, can you afford that? Yeah. Are you going to go broke if you do that? No. Okay, but it will be a hit, but it's better than nothing. Okay, let's do that. So we did it, and it worked, and we kept doing this for the whole of the pandemic. And there was a year that the company grew 220% just in that year. So it's a happy story, but it was like, you know, I can see the people like, well, weren't you scared? Yeah, I was scared, but if you have the numbers, it's not a gut feeling. So I think entrepreneurs have to be risk takers, yes, but trust your gut is a bit like, can we not romanticize it? It's not romantic. It's I think I'm shattering a lot of people's dreams today. But yeah, it's difficult. It's and it's about the numbers. So yeah, and I think again, I was talking to Ben before this webinar. I said, I think we're talking here to a group of pretty educated people, so we don't have to go around thinking, oh, I'm going to trust my gut. Yeah, so you need to know how to calculate the risk you can afford. Let's put it like that. So that's my take on it. Next one, entrepreneurship is a lonely path. What do you think? I think it's lonely to be an entrepreneur. Obviously, if you're a sole entrepreneur, I don't know, like more lonely than working in an office, or how does it work? Because you don't have anybody to ask for help, or we might have a co-founder if that helps, but still too could be lonely or not. What do you think? Could you hear that? I've heard that a few times. Say no. Okay, great. Well, 35% on the yes. Okay. So I think if you don't watch yourself, it could be, but I think most of the times it's a myth, because you have so many organizations nowadays that you can ask for help. This one, of course, Association of MBAs, business graduates, you can ask you. So make an effort to do networking. You can have associations, you can have networking groups on your local town. Universities are great. They always have a hub for that. We are part of 2 government initiatives. We're part of 2 as well. LinkedIn is amazing. You'll find great people there. Social media groups, podcasts. You have a lot of groups as well being founded for people like, let's say, minorities. So I am part of a By Women Build, which is an amazing group for women founders. Sorry, boys. So I'm sure there are groups there. So Young Foodies here is another one, Enterprise Nations. Those are all mostly UK ones, apart from Amber, but and the university, of course. But yeah, that's what I would say is, if you don't watch yourself, it can be lonely. You can be left alone, but help is out there. Ask for it, look for it. And most importantly, if you can help someone out of your heart with something that you know, you will come back. And I'm not just saying that because by now you have realized I'm not like a romantic, dreamy person. But in this case, it's very true. Because, for example, in a lot of this, Fitbakes started digitally. It was a digital brand. We started on social media, selling online and Amazon and these kind of things before supermarkets. So, and I come from tech, so I knew a lot about the tech world and a lot about the social media world and the algorithms and how to reach people there. We are talking 5 years ago, which not that many people, influencers, not that many people were using. Now it's commonplace, but and I got a lot of questions from a lot of people in all these associations, all these places here that I'm showing the screen here about how to deal with that. So if every opportunity I took to teach people about how to deal with influencers, to teach people about, because that's the only thing I knew. Then after you teach them, you go like, if you go ask for something, oh, how can anybody help me with packaging? Can anybody help me? How do I do a barcode for a company? So if you give them something, people will be very likely to call you back and to help you back because they are proud of that. So it's a lot about just share. Just share what you can, because it could be lonely, but it's help is out there and it doesn't have to be. So that's our take on it. Next one, your product and service must be perfect to launch. What do you think? Can you launch something that's kind of good, kind of done, or do you think it should get absolutely perfect to launch because you can't afford mistakes nowadays? What do you think? I've heard controversies in this one, but I'm gonna share my opinion.
It's a tough one to answer, isn't it?
I'll share my examples here. It's a hard one.
Okay, so I'll end the poll now.
No. Well done, guys. Yay. I agree completely. I think it's the minimum viable solution. This is a picture. The top one is a picture of our first products, our first packaging, which I used to buy on eBay. And the labels were printed in by Vistaprint, which is a website that prints stuff quickly here in the UK. And the logo was designed on the website called Fiverr for literally £5. And yeah, and that's how horrible it was. And below is our current products. Same flavor, same, yeah, but a little bit better, I would say. So yeah, I think minimum viable solution, and you launch it, just do it. You know, if you don't, like, this is that one quote that I love is, what is not started will never get finished. So just start it and see how it is and feel it. If you, especially nowadays, you can start, most stuff can start online, and you can start for a very minimum cost. So unless you're talking about, you know, something very specific, but if you can, obviously, start with the minimum viable solution, test it. Customer feedback is your most viable tool. We have changed so much in our products. We changed the packaging, we changed the flavors, we changed the claims. Not changed it, but we used to highlight a lot, like a low sugar, high protein, and this much low carbs, and keto friendly, gut friend, blah, 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 because it has all these credentials. What we found out, for example, is that most people, especially in supermarkets, they don't care about that. They don't know, they know calories. So what we did is, look, this is our latest packaging, Fitbakes, because if you don't get from the hint of the name that it's a healthy product, you know, you can, it's the name's already there. 98 calories per cake, job done. If you want to see the rest, it's in the back of the pack, but front of the pack, that's it. Website, obviously, we call attention for a lot of other stuff, but on the supermarkets, people decide, you take 3 seconds to decide if you're going to pick a package up to put in your cart or not. 3 seconds, you can't write too much stuff. Yummy picture on the front, 98 calories. Oh, I'll have a look. Then you pick it up. So yeah, so you change it. So the product and service must not be perfect to launch. I mean, don't launch something, you know, horrible, but if you think it's almost there or it's on your way, just do it. Just do it if it's possible, obviously. So yeah. Next one, startups need investment. What do you think? We hear that a lot. This guy's got investment, this guy got, again, people get very praised when they get investment. Oh, look, oh my God, they got, what did I hear? The last one, Zoe, startup for nutrition, which I know the founders personally, because one of them was my professor, is $96 million of seed investment. I mean, Jesus Christ. But it's a medical products, so medtech. So what do you think? Do you think startups need investment? Yes, most of you, and no. Okay, let me explain. I wouldn't say yes or no in this one, because it depends. It depends 100% of your end game. It's your choice. I'm going to explain here. Maybe a lot of you might already know, but most of you probably already know. But let's explain the difference about a growth startup and a lifestyle startup. Growth startup is something you're going to build, grow quickly, and exit because you want the money in the end, or you want the exit, or you want whatever. You're selling to somebody else. A lifestyle startup is something that is like a personal business. You're going to start it, grow slowly, and you're not going to exit. That's going to give you a nice monthly income, let's say, as you know, at some point. So the difference is growth startup, you have high costs because you want to grow quickly. Okay, lifestyle startup, you have low cost because you don't need to grow quickly. You can, if you're able to, amazing. It's very much more difficult because, but you don't have to, because your objective, you don't have a deadline to sell. Now, a growth startup is is not quickly profitable. In fact, some of them are not profitable ever. So you can take most of the tech companies that are startups. Some of them are still not profitable. I think Amazon turned its first profit not that long ago, and then obviously when it turned, but yeah. Lifestyle startups, it has to be quickly profitable because you can't have investors on a lifestyle startup. Why not? Why can't you have investors? Because you're not exiting. Investors are not giving you their money. They are kind of giving you their money because they want to get more money back at some point. So and that is the next point here. Growth startup, you have investors. Lifestyle startup, you don't have investors. So basically, in a growth startup, your costs are high, you're quickly profitable, you're not quickly profitable, you need investors, obviously, because you have high costs and you don't have a profit. Somebody has to give you the money. And investors will give you the money because you will have an exit plan. So somebody's going to give you the money because you're going to say you're going to have your money threefold in 5 years or 10 years. That's what you're selling to their investors. That's what they're giving you, their money. Now, if you're not planning to exit, if you're just planning to have, if you don't have a plan of when you're going to give any money to an investor back, you can't take their money, basically. The moment you take money from investors, you became a growth startup and you have to have an exit plan, because otherwise they will not even give you their money. So this is the difference. Startups need investment if they are planning to exit, yes. If they are not planning to exit, if they're a lifestyle startup, which some people don't even call that a startup, they call that small business, or they call it lifestyle business, but some of the people do. So it's important to know this difference. I'm a judge in the MBA awards, entrepreneurship awards in the end of the year. And we get a lot of people showing lifestyle startups, not a lot, but some. And I'm like, where's your exit plan? Oh, no, I don't plan to exit. Well, how did you take investors' money? You can't, because then all you're saying is that, oh, thank you very much for your money, I'm never giving you back. How does that work? You're not going to get an investor if you're not going to be exit. So you have to know which, but it's fine. You can choose which one to be. And if you are a social enterprise, which I also see a lot in the MBA awards, it's a different type, basically, because you have investors in a social enterprise, but then how are you going to give their money back? You have to have an exit plan to somebody. You have to exit. It might not be to a bigger company, it might be to a venture capital, it might be to a government, but there has to be an exit. You cannot just say, I'm going to clean the oceans and I'm going to take money from a lot of investors, clean the oceans, spend the money cleaning the oceans, and that's it. Well, it's not a company then, it's a charity. So, which is fine, but just don't classify as a startup. That's what I'm saying. It's different. It's a different kind of funding. You can't take money from investors for that. You might have to take money from the government, or from awards, or from grants, this kind of thing. So you have to know what is your choice, what is your game plan. So yeah. So I say it's a myth because they say it needs investment. It doesn't need it, but it depends, right? Which one you are. This is the last questions. And this is a famous quote, which says, winners never quit and quitters never win. If you know who said this quote, bonus question, but yeah, do you think this is true? In entrepreneurship, I'm not saying in the world, for entrepreneurs, is this true? Yes and no, half and half, almost, a little bit yes. Well, my opinion is it's a myth. This quote was said by Vince Lombardi, which is a very famous American football coach. So in his world for sure it's true. So because but that's what he's selling. He's selling victories. He's a football coach. But in entrepreneurs, you have to know when to quit. You have to know, it doesn't mean you're quitting your company, but you have to know when to quit some parts of the entrepreneurship. I will give you a little quick story. We had my favorite flavor of cakes that we sold, low sugar, high protein. This is the cake, cookies and cream cake. When we launched it, I thought it was going to be a bestseller, and I thought it was amazing. I did polls and people asked for it and thought it was fantastic, and everybody was going to buy it. It didn't sell. People loved it, the taste, but I mean, the reviews were great. But in terms of volume, it doesn't sell. I thought it was going to be like, literally sell like hot cake. It just doesn't sell. And I'm like, and we spent a lot of money to develop it, a lot of money to make the packaging, and a lot of, its design and the produce and everything, and its specific ingredients, and there was R&D involved and everything. And it's like, well, but it's very good and I love it and it's going to sell. And half a year, 1 year, 2 years, guys, it's not a hero product. So no. And you know what? It was costing us more money to make it than it was to keep it on the market, than to give it up. So yeah, we quit it. We quit on this product. We quit on that flavor, and it is fine, because then I have less flavors to offer and people concentrate on the ones that sell the most, and I have less work to do and less waste and more profit. So again, it's all about the numbers. One more time. And I leave with you with one last quote here, and this is my quote, is don't be afraid to quit, learn from it, move on. If you fall in love with the hand, people that play poker will know that you already lost. Don't fall in love with your product. Don't fall in love with one specific thing. It's about the results. You have to be cold sometimes, but it's about the results. And thank you very much. That was it.
Thank you so much for that, Ella. That was fantastic. Just go back to cookies and cream. Exactly why? Do you know why it didn't sell as well? Or
we don't know. We don't know. We researched it. We asked everybody. People said, "What do you like?" "Oh, I love it." "Well, why don't you buy it?" "Why do you go for lemon instead of this one?"
do you think, I'm just thinking off the top of my head, because when I think of cookies and cream, I think of it as very unhealthy and it's a treat, pure and simple. Although your bars are healthy, if I saw a bar that's a cookies and cream, I would instinctively think that's not healthy. I'll go for something else. Do you think that maybe could be it?
It could be. And now we launched the cookies and cream bar, crunch bar. It's like a little chocolate treat, and that sells like crazy. It's our best seller on Waitrose. So why not the cakes? Why do you? Some things is a mystery. It's just, I still don't know. Yeah, I want to relaunch it one day because it's still there. The packaging still saved it. So like maybe change the, I don't know. Yeah.
But yeah, so bizarre. So the cookies and cream bar sells, not cookies and cream cake. That is very interesting. But like you said, it's a really good example of, like you said, you were very much in love with that product, thought it was going to sell, but it didn't. And then you adapted to it and took the failure and moved on, which is a very important lesson.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we've had a couple of questions come through. The first one was talking about funding. So I know you talked about it very briefly with venture capitalists and private equity companies. And I've read a lot as well. There's some entrepreneurs always think that the only way you can do a startup is by getting a large seed or a large fund coming in, then you're an entrepreneur. Whereas I've read as well, there's quite a lot of companies that do it organically and always say it's better to organically because then you don't have shareholders to answer to. With Fitbakes, did you start off being organically, or did you get a VC or PE in quite early on?
We got our first funding came when we were about, I think, 6 months in. It was a friends and family round. So it was basically, well, it's somebody that used to work with me years ago. She was my personal friend, and she is now an angel investor. So when she saw about it, she saw the proposal. She's like, what she literally said, when you want to raise money, talked, I can help you. And I was like, well, right now. So like, like no, give right now. So our first raise was £50,000 back in 2019. And then after that, we had a round from crowdfunding. We had a crowdfunding round. So, and then after the crowdfunding round, we had a third round, which was large investors, not VCs yet. We we were not on VCs level yet. VCs, when we raised that round, was 2 years ago in 2021. When you raise to raise with VCs, you have to be like on the 5 million mark of revenue, which we were not in 2021. So we raised on, let's say, very wealthy individuals in family offices. So trust funds from families that you want to invest in something. So that's where our funding came from.
I see. Thank you for that. And just going actually back to the flavor, a question's come in about just a little bit of critical analysis about the cookies and cream cake that we keep going back to. And I'm just trying to be reading quite quickly as well. It's saying that if you really were to follow your passion, would you have kept the flavor going even though you know it's not going so well? But I guess that also conflicts with the numbers element you keep pushing forward, whereby if it's not selling, it's almost dead wood and you're spending a lot more money on it per product, so you're better off canning it. And then I guess bringing it back in the future. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, like I said, the passion thing is I mean, when I put myth or truth there, I think most of those answers, to be fair, a lot of the answer would be it depends. So I actually agree with this. I'm reading here some critical analysis. If you hear me out, I disagree with the following passions to reach success. And yeah, I mean, like I don't want anybody to be romantic when you want to be an entrepreneur, because we hear that a lot. People, to make headlines, people want, the press wants to go out and say, follow your passion. That person did this, that person did that. It's not going to work. So I think you have, let's substitute the word passion for drive. Follow your drive and run your numbers, and then you will be successful. Let's put it like that.
Like you said, that your drive is that you're a cakeaholic, as we see on your website, that you love cake.
Yeah, no, my real drive is a halfway between being a cakeaholic and being an Excel crazy person. So yeah.
Was it, you mean in the Excel, as in like the numbers, making sure they work before you launch the business? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's all about numbers, isn't it? In the end, and it sounds a bit boring. I mean, but it is. It's true. And again, I've had people. I've worked with a couple of other entrepreneurs that they were not amazing with numbers, and they still did great because they hire somebody for it, or they got a co-founder that does it, or you don't have to necessarily pay. But because in the beginning, that's the other thing with startups. Everybody comes out to offer so many services and consultants and this and that. You can, splash money everywhere. And I definitely do not do that. There is a lot of free help out there. Virgin Startup program is great if you need like somebody to help you with, for example, and there are Enterprise Nation, you have so many of them. So to help you run the numbers, help you make a business plan and this kind of thing. So yeah, it's I think run your numbers. And if you're not great with numbers, it is okay, get somebody that is, because if nobody is, your company is going to go down very quickly.
No, that makes sense. I think when you read a lot about many entrepreneurs, and we talked about it briefly earlier, is that you don't have to be an expert in everything. You just need to find someone that is. Don't you? So like you said, if you're very good with numbers, but if you were starting Fitbakes and you had no real idea if it had market value, if it was going to make money, then you find someone to essentially answer that question.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. In the beginning, we used to, I used to answer the phone in the very beginning if a client would call, right? Because it was just me. They would call the call would end up in my mobile. And I am not the best person on the phone. I'm really not. So I mean, and my husband that's how he came in the company, because he is Mr. Network, Mr. Nice Guy,
Oh,
Mr.
I see.
Relationship with everything. So at one point, he took the phone from me. He's like, "You're not allowed to speak with customers anymore, ever. You're a nightmare." I was like, because people was like, "I like the cake." And I'm like, so? Like, don't read it. Like, you know,
Oh, that's so true.
and then, I mean, so he took it over. So, I mean, I recognize that's definitely not my forte, and I'm not allowed, and I don't speak with customers, and that's it. So he does it. But yeah. So
Definitely,
well, now we
definitely.
have a customer team, but before
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah, that's so true. It's not all about being able to do everything. It's just finding the right people. And maybe go back to
Yeah.
Fitbakes. Have you always been a baker since you were young, and you've got a lot of baking experience? And then, or did you kind of pick it up as you went along?
I was always curious about about health. So I'm from Brazil originally.
Mhm.
I'm Portuguese Brazilian, but I was raised in Brazil, and in Brazil it's very easy. People know how to do some natural substitutes. So that's what
Okay.
I've always been. So I've always like, oh, instead of putting my house didn't have a sugar pot. It had a stevia pot because it's a
Okay.
South American plant, and that's why you eat. So when I get here and people are like, putting the sugar in everything, and I'm like, well,
Mm,
why? So there is an alternative that tastes just as good. And,
mm.
I mean, some people like Steve, but that I've always been on the substitutions. I wanted to hack it, basically. That was my
Yeah,
passion. And I did some baking and some cooking, but I wasn't amazing on that. I was more about the hacks. That's what I wanted to do.
I see. And then when you start the company, you weren't exactly like, let's say, an expert baker, but you put your substitute experience alongside your love of cakes to then make something. And
Yeah.
did you, when you started the company, did you have the flagship Fitbakes product that you have now, or were you continuously changing the actual formula? So I know you talked about the
The
packaging.
main product, funny enough, the main product when we launched was brownie,
Okay.
which we stopped doing 3 years ago because, now get this one, that brownie, it was a sweet potato brownie, and that brownie happened to be vegan. Okay, by
Okay.
chance. It wasn't. It was the way it was. It was plant-based,
Yeah.
and not vegan, plant-based. And we wrote plant-based on the packaging, and because it was plant-based, it was low sugar, high protein, and plant-based. We got a moment of a lot of backlash on social media from a lot of very purist vegan that loved our brownie and said, well, this company isn't really serious because not everything is vegan. And if something is vegan, you don't respect the animals. How can you do something with eggs? How can you do something with milk? And I'm like, okay, well, we had to take it down. We had to stop making our main product because of social media shouting.
Which is
So
your number one boss.
yes, boss told me to, I did it. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah, your 52,000 Instagram bosses said otherwise. But I guess that's a good adage to change, continuously changing the product as you set out. I
Yeah,
guess you never on day one of Fitbakes knew what it was going to be like today. So I
yeah,
guess you're always trying to adapt to different changes, including the story you said about during COVID. It's
yeah.
very
I think, I
interesting.
mean, we have a lot. I have a lot of them. I mean, I have stories of each year we had a major like hit. We just had our one this year that one of our factories has now been sold to another owner, and the new owner doesn't
Hmm.
want the small clients, just want the big ones. So we are being kicked out. So we had 1 month to find a new factory, which we did. And one of the products is not working yet. The new factory can't make it. So yeah, no, that was nice.
Oh, actually,
We'll get there.
yeah, no, you raise a good point then. So you don't actually own these factories, do you? So you haven't bought or purchased let's say a small factory to do everything
No.
Fitbakes, have you? So you're, let's say, renting it off. For argument's sake, a landlord, and then the landlord suddenly changes hands, and then the new people don't have the same vision. So
Yeah,
would you?
the way it works is outsourced. So basically, this factories in the UK, they used to produce to a lot of brands. But what we try to do, and we've tried to do, we've done successfully so far, is we always have a backup factory. We have a one main factory.
Okay.
And if that one thing, we started doing that after COVID, because if that fails, we need a backup, because after COVID, we learned. But right now, the backup factory is trained to do the main job, but one of the flavors, the newest flavor that we launched in the old factory, we never trained the backup factory yet. It was about to be trained, and they can't make it work. So yet. So yeah, I mean, last case scenario, we take it off the market for a while, but
I see. And it doesn't happen to be the millionaire bites, does it? Because
no,
like Langley in the comments to say how much you liked it. So if you're about to announce on this webinar that that's been taken off, I think Richard would be too happy.
No, that's not it. That's not it.
Okay, amazing. And yeah, that's pretty. There's a few comments here, of course, saying how great the food is, and someone was talking about taking risks. I know you said that you're not a real risk taker, but ultimately the biggest risk at all is being self-employed, right? It's not having regular income,
absolutely,
being successful, failing. So that's a lot of risk. But like you said, your risk was well evidenced. There was a lot of data to back up the risk. And what you're trying to say is that don't just walk into a room blind. Make sure you go into the room with a torch. Is what you're saying. Yeah,
and I did both. I started a company and I continued to work for 1.5 years, almost 2 years. So I quit my job right before COVID, which was a mistake. I mean, I could have gotten a furlough and do nothing, but yes, but yeah, I quit right before COVID. So, but when I quit, it is definitely a risk. But when I quit, Fitbakes already had in its budget a salary for me. We were already there. I wasn't like, that's the difference. If you're creating a lifestyle business, your earnings are the profit. You make a profit, you take it out. So that's a risk. If you have a startup, with a growth startup like Fitbakes is, with investors and everything, you have a budget, and I know what the cash flow of the company is going to be a year from now. I mean, very close, and we are usually very close. I mean, we are very on the budget on everything. So I knew that we had 1.5 years of salary, not salary, but of if everything goes right, everything, that will be sorted out. So, but yeah, still after a year, if the company went wrong, I would be unemployed. And my plan was like, well, I can just try to get another job, that was, but yeah, it's a risk, of course.
Definitely. Okay, so that's pretty much all the time we have now. We've run over by 5 minutes, of course, absolutely fine. Thank you so much, Jana, today for giving us the truth and myth of being an entrepreneur. I've personally learned quite a lot about what it's like to be an entrepreneur. It sounds like a lot of hard work, but incredibly rewarding as well.
It is. I wouldn't change it for anything, to be honest. I mean, and I think I did it just at the right time. If I have done it 10 years before, I would probably have driven me nuts. But, and I think, I want to answer this one here. The salary to be considered over or below the current one can be earning as being an employee. Oh, I was much richer when I was an employee. Oh, God. My salary was good. Like, being an entrepreneur in a growth company is poor. You are banking on the fact that you will make a big exit in a few years. But I used to travel business class, company used to pay for me. So yeah, but yeah, no, it's not it's not big money. And why entrepreneurs need bosses? From Costa instead of think they need Godfather. I love it. Yeah, well, fantastic presentation will definitely be shared. I'm sending it to Ben, and then he can share with you guys.
Of course, yeah. I was just about to say that, yeah, Ella, if you can send me the presentations, I'll make sure I get emailed out to everyone who's registered today. And if you weren't able to make it, the recording will be live on the website as well quite soon. and hopefully we'll be able to email as well. So if you missed anything, then feel free to watch both of them. And if you want to reach Ella or learn more about what Fitbakes is doing, simply type in Fitbakes on Google and you'll find a great website. Or feel free to look around the supermarket when you're next out shopping and be sure to pick up a bar. I don't work
Follow
for
us on
Fitbakes,
social
by the way.
media. Follow me on LinkedIn. Connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer through there.
Definitely, yeah. And on our website where you would have registered for today's webinar, we have all of Ella's socials, social media, her email address, etc.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you so much again, Ella. It's been a pleasure. Okay, and everyone else as well who's joined today, just to thank you all for joining today. Hope you found it very useful and insightful. And we will be having our next session next week. We'll be joined by Peter Bulker, who's going to talk about from university to the corporate world to becoming an entrepreneur. So I'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.